All right. You think we're ready to get started, Andrew? Are you ready to get started?
Hold on. I don't have a pulse, so we'll just get started. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I have some questions. I want to make tonight's webinar a little more interactive than we would normally have. So I want to know who had plans for this year. Andrew and I want to know who had plans for 2022. Who had goals, who had plans, who said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to travel here, I'm going to make this much money, I'm going to buy this many properties. Who
had some goals?
Who had goals and plans? Apparently nobody.
Just give them a minute. Give them a minute. You know, we are on the other side of the world and time is traveling ever so slowly. Let's give them a moment. How were your plans? How were your goals? Did everything change during the year? That's awesome, Donna. That's amazing. Okay, Stephanie.
Okay,
yes.
We planned to buy at least one property and we did. Good for you, Stephanie.
Okay. There's some plans, but they changed a lot. I'm curious. Was that Stephanie? No, sorry, Brianne. What changed a lot? Like, what changed? What knocked you off the plan or the goal? If you were to summarize it in a word or several words.
Okay, Amy says, I committed to an REI journey in July. Haven't set specific plans yet. You've been educating yourself first. Amy, I love it. That is exactly what you should be doing when you start out. Otherwise, you're taking action in random directions.
Yeah. Build the skills.
Educating is key.
Then afford the thrills, right?
Yeah. Some we crushed and some I don't remember. Need to do more reviews. Thank you, Tess, for sharing. Many goals reached in 2022, more for 23.
Nice, Anne-Marie.
Going to do more flips, but glad we didn't switch to short-term rentals. Way to pivot, Brianne. Good for you. Appear on a real estate podcast. I was a guest on the Breakthrough podcast. Good for you, Gary. Those are awesome guys. That's a great podcast to go on. Plan to buy more than one property. Our first project took a lot longer than expected. They did this year, didn't they? And they cost more than a lot of us expected too.
Yeah.
Learning, reading, expanding my network. You guys are awesome action takers. Because my next question for you guys was, whose life went according to plan? Who had a roadmap for 2022 and they could check off all of those little boxes and go, yep, in January I did this, in February I did this, in March, and nobody had anything that deviated from their plan. Hell no.
Hell no, John says.
Amen. I love it.
Nope. Biggest
detours in years. I feel you, Amy. I absolutely
That's a good word, detour.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, right?
Yeah.
Failure is only the absence of action, stopping, right? But if it's a detour, it's an adjustment. Awesome.
Lorenzo says, that's why we're here. Absolutely, Lorenzo. And I'm so glad you're joining us this evening. Now, I'm not a big one to talk about myself a lot on these webinars. So I'm going to share a little bit more about my year in the hopes that it will kind of resonate for some of you. So last year at the end of the year, I had the good fortune of spending New Year's Eve with Andrew and his beautiful wife, Lemore, and their lovely daughter, Eliana. And I had all kinds of goals and plans, and I had my year mapped out, and I had my target set. And those of you who know me well know I'm like a kind of an uber control. Well, I won't say a control freak. I like to have structure in my life. How's that, Andrew? That's a little more. Yeah.
That's the word. And wait, before you go further, did you have a heck of a year? Was that an amazing year?
Absolutely. 2021 was amazing. And I thought 2022 is going to be even better. I'm going to rock it. And I started the year really well. And in the last 6 months, I've had surgery twice unexpectedly. So in the middle of all of my plans, everything got thrown up in the air and I ended up spending time in bed. I ended up spending time in hospital. I ended up spending time healing and recovering and doing all of these things that not only had I not planned for, I had zero, there was no plan. It wasn't on the radar. It wasn't a plan B, C, D, E, or F. Like I've literally never encountered health issues like this before. And it threw me off my game hard. And it made me question everything I was doing. And, you know, this last year, this last couple of years, it's been really, really hard for people. You know, a lot of people, they've lost money, maybe they've lost family members. Here we are coming into the holiday season, and people might be feeling stressed. Is anybody here feeling a little bit tired, maybe overwhelmed, burned out, maybe just a little bit of the like, please stop the roller coaster. I just need to catch my breath. I just need to get a few minutes. I just need some peace and quiet.
Give me
else?
Give me a yeah in the chat box. Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's resonating for people. I mean, what I really wanted to do when I booked Andrew for this webinar, what I really wanted to do was to take 2022 and all of the challenges and all the changes and all the other things that we have done, that, you know, the opportunities we've realized, the challenges we overcome. And I wanted to put a bow on 2022 and help us make 2023 our best years yet. And that's not to say that like there's no intelligent life here. Some days I feel like
what you think about you attract. Let's start attracting some intelligent people. I agree with you, Dave. Some people are checked out here and they need to get rechecked in. I love it, Lizzie. Yeah,
absolutely. So what I really want to do is spend some time this evening really focusing on how do we make this next year better. And I know as a coach, I spend a lot of time with my clients talking about planning and talking about structuring and talking about goal setting. But I don't think in the real estate world, we spend enough time talking about the action that we need to be taking between our two ears. And again, we talk about mindset. You need to do this. You need to be positive. You need to blah, 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 blah. But we don't spend enough time talking about like, how do we adapt to change? How do we overcome obstacles? How do we continue to get up and keep moving forward when things don't go according to plan? And that's a lot of what Andrew's going to talk to us about this evening. So I'm going to do our quick introduction here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Andrew and let him run the show for the next little while.
Liz, can I throw something in there? Like you did mention, like, you know, there were a couple of major occurrences there. Were they unexpected or surprise, considering the journey that you had been on for some time, and that, you know, sometimes chapters come to an end as new chapters begin?
They were unexpected, but looking backwards, I can see how all of my previous challenges and successes built on that. So, oh, thank you, Anne-Marie. So I'll give you an example, and I don't know, you know, what everybody believes and, you know, the universe and spirit and woohoo and all that kind of stuff. But when I first got sick in June and I was in and out of the hospital, I was in and out of the emergency room 3 times in a month. And I was literally going, I don't understand what is going on. I feel afraid right now. I feel uncertain. I don't know what to do. I feel powerless. And at the end, you know, 6 months later, I can see how all of that had a purpose. I can see that the challenges I had at the beginning ended up serving me in the end. I can see the journey that I went on made me stronger. It made me more courageous. It gave me more faith and trust. And I feel like it made me a little bit more focused on how to make each day count more.
Amen.
So it was hard in the beginning. Like Andrew knows, I was on the phone with Andrew sometimes multiple times a day going, I don't understand. I am so scared. I don't know what to do. And we just broke it down and piece by piece. And
inch
now,
by inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it's always hard. Yeah.
Now I'm a badass and I'm coming for 2023.
She's a super. Is Liz not a badass? Doesn't she look great? How's she making you feel right now? Is the vibe up? Come on. She's looking great, right? Well done, Lizzie. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So what I want to do is sprinkle a little of this magic for everybody else too. And let's figure out how we're going to make your holidays happy, restorative, peaceful as best we can amidst the chaos. And then let's figure out how we're going to level up in 2023. Sound good? Everybody with me for this journey for the next hour and a bit?
Let's go.
Oh,
Cameron said, let's go.
Awesome. Okay. So we are here tonight to talk about the Total Success Blueprint, your action plan to winning all year. I, of course, am Elizabeth Kelly, and then with me is my high performance coach, Andrew. And just a couple of housekeeping things as we begin. Thank you for joining us, Andrew. It's always great to have you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Just a quick reminder. So in the chat box, we want to be a little more interactive this evening than some presentations. You'll find Andrew will ask you questions to see how everybody's doing and make sure nobody's fallen asleep in their wine. So make sure you click the drop down and you have everyone checked and not hosts and panelists, because then only Andrew and I see and can interact with you. If you have any questions, then please use the Q&A tab, which is also at the bottom of your screen. And what this does is it saves the questions so that we can pop back into them at the end, and Andrew will have a chance to answer all of them. Because if you put your questions in the chat box, by the time we get to the end of the webinar, I guarantee they'll be long gone. So put your questions in the Q&A, but interact and chat with Andrew and I and everyone else here in the chat box. So our agenda for this evening, we're going to do a quick welcome and introductions. Then we're going to have Andrew's presentation. We'll do the Q&A and the webinar wrap up. And I have a little something extra for everyone who's attending this evening, because we are going to have a little bit of fun at the end. So my name's Elizabeth Kelly. For those of you who don't know me, I am a real estate investor, have been for almost 20 years. I'm also a coach, and I was a trainer for Rich Dad Canada for 8 years, which is part of my transition into the world of coaching. And I work with new and experienced real estate investors, helping them grow their portfolios, helping them find clarity and focus and achieve their goals in a much shorter period of time than they dreamed possible. We're also joined by Andrew this evening. Andrew is a high-performance coach and an Airbnb Superhost. And I mean, you guys can read, he has a ton of experience. He really helps investors with clarity, energy, courage, necessity, productivity, and influence, which are 6 pillars that we all need to be building in order to become better, not just better versions of ourselves, but in order to achieve our goals and optimize our time and energy. Andrew is also my high performance coach. And because I feel like so much of my journey the last few years can be credited to Andrew and having his support and guidance, I really thought it would be a great opportunity. We had a ton of fun when we did the real estate summit in October. So I thought it'd be great to finish up the year and start 2023 on a high note by having Andrew join us.
Good to be here. Do you see what Mammy said?
No, I didn't. I can't see the chat right now.
Yeah, she says you look more and more beautiful every time she sees you. What's your secret? What?
I got some secrets thanks to Andrew and Lemore. I definitely
got some
do.
Secrets.
All right. So as a coach, this is usually the time of year where I spend a lot of time with my clients talking about how to create clarity. So we talk about goal setting, you know, both personal and professional. And we talk about, you know, business plans, and we talk about SWOT analysis and, you know, competitive. We talk about all this really technical stuff. But I think there's a really easy way to kind of get that process started. And what I love to do is start by looking backwards at 2022. And someone mentioned in the chat box something earlier about, you know, the year in review. And I think it's really important. My background is actually event planning. So we used to call it a postmortem. And every time we did a big event, whether it was a charity event and it was, you know, we were looking to raise, you know, $500,000 at a, you know, a big evening event with an auction and everything, or whether it was just a small golf tournament and we were looking to raise $25,000. Either way, we did a postmortem and we asked ourselves questions about what worked and what didn't work. So there's a really simple formula that each of you can start with to review last year and to help start setting your intentions and your goals for next year. So the first question to ask yourself is, what do I need to stop doing? So maybe you're saying, I need to stop procrastinating on responding to important emails, or I need to stop spending money without making sure that there's enough in the bank account to support it, or I need to stop just randomly running numbers and not actually taking action and putting in offers on anything. So what do you guys, I'm going to circle back here.
Chat box. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
what do you need to stop right now? Yeah.
And I think because I'm sharing my screen, I can't. So we won't worry about that quite right now. So we'll hop back into that afterwards. So the next question you need to ask yourself is, what do I need to start doing? So maybe I need to start setting time aside each morning to plan out my day. Maybe I need to start, getting out of the office and not working 18 hours a day. Maybe I need to start spending more time with my family. Maybe I need to start prioritizing myself and taking care of myself so that I have something left to give back to others. And then the last question we want to ask ourselves is, what do I need to keep doing? So maybe you say, I want to keep booking one meeting a week with someone new in order to expand my network. So what are you already doing that you feel has been instrumental in helping you level up as a person, as a business owner, as a real estate investor, as a parent, as a sibling, whatever it is? What do you need to keep doing in order to continue to succeed and move forward?
Liz, you got to hear this from Calvin. Stop using my disadvantages as excuses and start using my advantages.
Oh, I love that.
Wow, Calvin.
That
Off
is
to a
some
great start. Well done.
Insight in the group
nice.
this evening. I'm so glad you joined us, Calvin. We need that kind of insight.
Yeah.
And so building on that, once we have an idea of what we want to stop doing, start doing, and keep doing, the next thing I like to do is I try and choose 3 words that will describe my year, that will set my intention for 2023. So I would love, before we turn it over to Andrew, I would absolutely love to hear a couple of words, 3 if you have them. Tell us what you want 2023 to be for you. Abundance. Oh, that's
nice.
A good one.
Cameron.
We're off to a strong start, Andrew.
Oh, yeah. Thoroughbred, right out the start gate. Growth,
connection.
Oh, with connection, Ellie, I'm going to tell you, relationships, people are going to be showing up. That's great.
That's amazing.
What do we got? Clarity.
Oof,
okay.
That's awesome. A powerful one too.
Yeah.
Confidence.
Nice.
Yeah.
Level up. Donna didn't want 1 word. It's 2 words. Let's go. Level up.
Donna's decisive too.
Discipline. Growth, development, success. Nice. Awesome, Stephanie. Prosperous. Ooh. Nice.
I notice, Andrew, nobody yet has said Netflix.
What? Why not?
Nobody has said they wanted 2023 to be all about the Netflix. Okay,
hold on. Can I put it in the chat box? Hold on a second. Hold on. To everyone.
Do not contaminate our chat box with Netflix.
Okay, fine. What about Amazon Prime?
No.
What about the scroll hole?
No. Tammy's got us back on track with Fearless. I love it.
Love it. All right. Perfect.
So, Andrew is going to help us take those basics of planning for the next year, and Andrew's going to help us level up. Andrew's going to help us with all those things that we really want to incorporate, because Andrew's going to talk about what we need to do between the ears in order to actually achieve those goals. So Andrew, you have been fantastic to work with. I know you're going to bring so much value, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I mean, Liz, the journey we've been on, I don't think you and I imagined back in March of 2020, the onset of COVID, all of a sudden is the onset of epicness, right? A journey. And some of those, journey steps along the way might have been a detour, a little bit of what's that speed bump doing there, right? But at the end of the day, we want to start winning where? We want to start winning here. We want to start winning here. We want to start getting out there, right? And I'm going to show you some simple steps that have led me and so many countless others to an idea that I actually think is really refreshing, right? Imagine being able to win constantly without exception. Forget the economy, forget the news. Imagine winning all the time. We're going to have to change, though, what we feel is a win and what's not. What is success? How do we become successful? Because if we really want to win all the time, let's first talk about what it's not and what it is. Who's up for that? Thumbs up. Get a show of heck yeah, or I'm in. Give me a thumbs up. Let's go. Come on, let's light it up, right? Let's turn that chat box into a Christmas tree. Let's light it up. Let's go. All right. Because here's the thing. This guy here, he might think he's winning. Clearly, if somebody is looking at you that way, it could be that maybe you're a little different, but clearly he thinks he's winning. But I also don't mean just kind of showing up and in this closed world, and really kind of looks like he's coming from 1980. So regardless, what we don't want to be doing when we're talking about winning, I'm not talking about feeling exhausted. I know some of you mentioned, and we're coming into the season, right? End of the year. Many of you have been pushing and giving and going. We're not talking about being tired, dealing with mental, emotional, physical burnout, right? So when we're talking about winning and success, again, we're also talking about, do you feel blessed? Do you feel good, right? Are you done feeling uncertain, insecure, and worrying constantly about what someone's saying or not? Because that's not winning. It is not winning. Neither is indecisiveness or lacking the ability to feel confident in your own skin, to make those decisions, to take the courage, to put in the offer and follow through with it. Now, here's the thing. You want to win? Well, relationship challenges and disagreements, whether they be at home with family or friends, or those at work or in your place of business, that's not winning either. All right. So as you can see here, I'm not talking about just the measure of who made more this year. That's a degree of winning. It's not the case. Because if you're not making progress in your professional pursuits and you think it's okay because you get to tune in or check out from your everyday, thanks Netflix, there's a time and a place for that. But here's the thing. We're not talking about this. So if there's anything on here that you even have the slightest indication, you feel like, yeah, that's me. So, you know what? Yeah, I've been a little unsure about myself. Some of those relationships. Enough. Let's just make a mark. If you can, be honest. Don't write it in the chat box. What I want you to do is be accountable to yourself. Write it on a piece of paper. What are a couple of these or a few of these areas that you want to finally do away with? Because 2023, it has to happen. It's not going to get easier. And I'll show you what we can do to make that happen. Now, who's feeling this right now? Who's feeling like an Elizabeth Kelly standing there in the Superman pose? Because what I'm really talking about when I'm talking about success and winning all the time, I'm talking about confidence, full certainty, energized, vibrant AF, if you know what I mean, in yourself. I'm talking about being decisive, driven, determined, and persistent beyond anybody's belief. Being strong, showing up, and supportive to others in all relationships. That's winning. You also got to consider, are you being courageous enough and bold? And are you an action taker? And here's the big one. What we're going to look at today. This is not just being a bold action taker because there's a deal that you're ready to work on. Are you also an action taker for yourself and your health? Are you moving yourself forward? Are you showing up with the kind of boldness and determination, because people need you on an A game right now. If not now, then more than ever. Also making progress. Really, that's winning. Making progress a regular part, an expected part of your life in every area of your life. How's that for winning? Lizzie, feeling that? Thumbs up?
Yep, that's awesome. That's my definition of winning for sure.
Because there's a killer here to winning, and it's called compartmentalizing. Most people have been trained to think that winning is simply a measure of the financial accruement or success that one achieves, ching. And what I've seen is that if you really want to go the distance and you want to stay on that over the long term, we have to look at all of it. And we have to find a way so it translates from one area to the next. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be simple if we can get moving in all areas so that success is guaranteed? That's what we're going to go in today. But I know we're here to win. Otherwise, there wouldn't be, we're coming up to 50 people here on the webinar. But let's first clean house for a sec. All right. I'm going to lift up the carpet. Maybe some things have been shoved under. Before we go any further, and this may or may not rub you on the right way, okay? We need to figure out what we need to stop doing and what we got to start doing. Liz mentioned that earlier. I got a couple I'm going to throw in, and I call it stop the shit. Stop blaming other people and own it. Own it. Even if it's like, but like they slapped me or they hit me or they took me to court. Own it. Own it. because in real growth in all areas, there's only victory, not victim. Let's keep moving forward, because if you wish things are going to get easier for you, you're going to be waiting a long time for that bus. You might want to buckle up and probably button up, especially with the Canadian winters we have upon us. And you need to start thinking, well, how do I get better? How do I get better so things start to almost appear easier? Stop waiting to be saved and start becoming the savior to others. Who's done hearing excuses, not from only yourself, but maybe from other people? Let's start being coachable for real. Let's start a willingness to learn, but not just learn and absorb and, hey, I went to this and I learned this and I learned this, but are you actually changing? Because the true definition of coachability is a willingness to learn and a willingness to change. If all you're doing is learning, well, great, you're a great encyclopedia. And unless you use it, you lose it. And lastly, this is where we talked about a little earlier, before we jump in and we reveal these secrets so you can start to win all the time. Let's practice a mentality of how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you show up at home around, hey, honey, how can I support you? Hey, honey, what can I do for the kids? Is also just as important, if not more important, than how you show up when the hot deal is on the line, or when you have a new client who's ready to sign. Let's stop compartmentalizing. It is a killer to you feeling more full and filled. Fulfillment, that's how we get it. So let's button it up, all right? So maybe you need to roll up your sleeves here, all right? You need to unbutton your shirt a little bit. Maybe it was at work, you're still a little tight. No problem. Let's jump in, because the first major secret in the blueprint to creating winning as a culture in your life, so you can bring this to the people around you, you're going to have to feed the focus. All right. And I know, Liz, we don't want to talk about Netflix for this very reason. What you focus on expands, unfortunately. And not everything you focus on do you want to expand in your life. Heck, no. Here's the key to feeding your focus. What you think about literally determines what you feel, how you decide to act, and thus the reality from those actions over the long term. Think about it like this. Close your eyes for a sec. Everybody close your eyes. Close your eyes. Sit up straight. If you're standing, awesome. Power to you. If you're sitting, sit up straight. And I want you to think of a time this year where you really, really, really showed up. You really stepped up. You buttoned it up and you made it happen. At the last hour, the last minute, what was that moment like? What is the feeling coming with that right now? How does that make you want to get out of your chair right now and get ready to take action tomorrow? That's how we start to move the train forward. We really, really have to take a look critically at the kind of focus that we're giving unconsciously, unfortunately. Right? As we focus here, we focus there. There ain't no hocus pocus. Feed the focus. Here's the thing. Developing your mind requires an aim in mind right now. What are the aims? 3 aims. You can see them right there. Number 1, an aim or a focus on self. You don't focus on yourself, there is nothing else. Let's stop the conversation. There is nothing else to focus on. If you don't focus on yourself, simple question, who am I being right now? How am I feeling? Or if you want to stretch into 2023, who do I need to become? Because this year versus last year, self. What do you think Liz had to stretch into as she was lying to get rest, as she was waiting for tests? Guess what? It's no wonder people become patient. It's no wonder I became more compassionate and kind towards others when I had to do that for myself, when I had breathing issues and gut issues, and my brain wasn't working very well either. This is going back about 8 years now, but guess what? You become what you focus on. And again, this is a simplified version for all intents and purposes. Here's the next step is interactions with a big S, because that's where the money's at. How do I need to show up? Feed your focus. Who am I going to be? Interactions. How am I going to show up once and for all? How am I going to show up? How do people need me to show up? Unfortunately, we've been cut off from feedback, getting people's, opinions and advice, because we usually get thrown off. But instead, I'm sure you know how you might want to show up better, especially starting at Christmas. This is a time we see a huge spike. And I don't say we like I drive the ambulance, but paramedics and ambulance usage goes way up. Why? People are drinking. People are eating. They're coming together with family. Not all of them they want to be together with. Right? So the cortisol levels are going up, the blood pressure, the heart rate, the breathing rate. You have a fine mixture this month, trying to buy everything, trying to wrap everything, trying to not be late. It's a high pressure month. And that's why a lot of people go into the new year not feeling like anything other than being kicked in the rear. Success, feed your focus, who you're going to be, how you're going to show up. And then what do I need to do? Who do I need to be to show up better for my business? How do I become more successful? Saw some words in there like, hey, prosperous. Okay, great. Action taker, bold, courageous. Secret number one, it ain't no secret. Feed your focus. Okay. This here, without proper aim and an intention in mind, you go as far as you think. It's essentially where it starts. But what do we feed behind that focus? Right? What's the gunpowder behind the actual bullet, right? So we're aiming, but what's going to bring that power forward? Well, here's secret number 2, get off your ass. Get off your ass, right? The grass is not going to mow itself unless you learn how to delegate and you've gotten an assorted landscape company to come in. Awesome. But here's the key is that if you know a bunch of stuff and you're not doing, you don't actually know. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. I didn't invent it, but I learned it at a pretty young age, and it started to really resonate. Now, here's the problem. Everything you want on the other side of that goal or that dream or that line of sight that you got for 2023, or maybe you had for 2022, there's a force that's stopping you from moving forward. It's called inertia. There is literally, if you study physics, there's a force stopping you from moving, right? Parked car on the side of the road, empty, no gas. What happens initially? You start pushing. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to get it going. And then what happens? Once you get it going, the intelligent person in the group will usually say, don't stop. That's the key. You're pumping a well. There are some wells that you got to pump. I've seen videos. I've literally studied the idea is that you might pump for like 30 minutes in some countries, 30, 40, 50 minutes. And then the water starts. And guess what? You fill up a bucket and you stop. You're better off continuing to pump and wait for other basins or hats or whatever you're going to put the water in, but don't stop pumping. Now, here's the key. I'm sure if you're on here tonight when you could be off, running your line of sight on something that you prefer on Netflix tonight. Instead, you're here. So I know you're an action taker. Here is the key to having that winning culture built into you. Don't take action on an area you prefer or is fun, or it's like, chasing the cha-ching. Look for areas that you can act. Again, aim the focus. Who are you going to be for yourself? How are you going to show up? If you put something off, a conversation, a situation long enough, because maybe, just maybe, the secret to your success is to stop putting off that thing in your life once and for all. How you feeling me on a Monday night? Lizzie, we got to raise the roof. Let's go. Let's light it up in here. I can't see the chat box, and we'll be going back to it. I want to get through this strong, and I want you to know that you have what it takes with the right focus. If we can start to really get in gear and create that single mother work ethic, in all areas of your life. Yeah, you heard me right. Single mother work ethic, the one working 2 to 3 jobs. First world, comfortable culture. Comfort is not only a creature habit, the greatest enemy of what? Human potential. So let's, for a minute, start to get these juices flowing. On your paper right now, write down an area that you've yet to take action on, that you know maybe even brings up some of those butterflies. Maybe you're like, oh, I'm not sure if, no, but trust me, staying on the shoulder, it's no wonder you don't think you can ride the bike. You're going to get on the bike and you're going to learn. And there's ways to get some training wheels, and there's a way to get up off the ground like you did when you were a kid. Let's be a little bit more flexible. Lizzie?
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do when I'm having a hard time or when I'm struggling, I ask myself, if this was my last day on the planet, what would I be doing right now? And there's not much that puts urgency there, like the idea that my time is limited. And really it is for all of us, but we sort of become immune to that, and we just go through our lives day to day. And all of a sudden, if you think, I have 24 hours left, what should I be doing with my time? And it just lights a fire for me.
Or what if, because that definitely like, oh, I need to get like a couple things. Oh my God. Imagine 2023 was the last year you were able to show up for yourself better than you ever have. Create the vibrancy, the stamina, the endurance. What if 2023 was the last year that you could show up in your relationships and make people really feel like they matter? Really be there for them without your agenda. Oh, I'm going to go connect and create a meeting, but deep down I got like, I want to raise all this capital and stuff. Instead of lifting your cap and listening to see what someone's at, see what they're up to, really feel like, is this somebody that I, can connect with and feel good with? Okay? Get off your, all right? That's the sound of, you know what? All right. Because if you don't, guess what? You don't get to step into a place that the real successful, the high achievers, we're talking about successful people that actually do drain down upon the masses, like really great resources, our kind, like there is definitely a stigma associated with high power and money. We're not looking at that. You get to choose what you value. You get to choose what you prioritize. But Lizzie, what you were talking about is like the clock is ticking. I have a day left. That's performance necessity. And it's actually found as one of the 6 habits that we need to make conscious as per the 2 million data point study, indicating you need necessity. And I'll tell you right now, the reason we don't get off our butt, because maybe we don't have a boss to kick us in the butt. Maybe you need to create your own little deadline. Maybe you need to create an own little game. Whatever story you give it, feed the focus. Fire up the lawnmower, all right? Just make sure you don't mow over any rocks, okay? Just go around the rocks in your life, all right? But this one here is something very few people can do when their mind's racing, when their heart's racing, when they're on their 5th or 6th coffee. It's really hard to know, am I going in the right direction? If you don't actually sit back a little and reflect, better inspect. Inspect means to actually look twice. Respect, inspect, missing in most people's actions. And if you can get a better acquainted with the time, energy, focus of what you're doing, you can literally become a detective. Hey, how's that working for me right now? Hey, how does that feel? I haven't noticed any results yet. That's okay, right? Bamboo doesn't sprout overnight, but the farmers that are patient and reflect, recalibrate the soil conditions, making sure everything's right, pulling out those negativity weeds, guess what? They reap those benefits over the long term. This is something that very few people have a full grasp on. And the easiest way to do it with the area you've chosen to focus on more, an action you need to take once and for all. If something's highly charged and it's causing you to like, oh man, my heart rate's going up, just thinking about it, just take a brief pause. Close your eyes for a sec. One of your greatest tools to determine who's right, who's not, what's the next action, is to just check in. Just check in for a sec. Hand on your chest, hand on your stomach, and take a pause briefly before you throw any text message back, any email back, before you do anything you might regret. Take a moment. Let's be more intentional. Intentionality is like a radio station. Most people, when they're acting, there's a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of static on the radio. And what we need to do is just adjust it a little bit. Oh, and guess how we adjust that? Guess how we get a little more like clarity rather than static? It's by noticing your breath. What is my heart saying? And so using your breath to slow down your thoughts so you can actually catch up to them. Where are they coming from? Is that a negative belief? So reflect and recalibrate. This is a major ingredient for adapting, for growing, and progress. And more full presence in what you do, who you're becoming, who you're showing up as, requires far more patience. Okay? So again, take a pause. Somebody says something at the Christmas event, right, Liz? You take a moment, go for a walk, instead of throwing it right back. Right? And then here's a big, you deserve it. You want to win all the time? Well, how does a phone continue to win for you, or a computer? Your performance needs to be rebooted. Fatigue, stress, pressure, pain, like even just the inundation of information literally overwhelms your system. If your vehicle acted like we do, it would literally, even with the fluids topped up, it would just overheat and it would need to go on the side of the road. Taking a real break, actually now, science is now showing breaks equal more effectiveness. Even if it's a 5 or 10 minute break, right, Liz? Is this something that you feel has been beneficial to your long list of wins over the several years?
Yeah, absolutely. The breaks have been key. And I used to think that a break, it had to be an hour or it didn't count. But even just 5 minutes and just sitting back and doing some deep breathing, it makes all the difference for how you show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And not just your lifestyle as well, but your environment, right? Like dim the lights a little bit, turn down the noise, turn down the stimulation, get into that mood and the vibe. Lizzie, what's it like when you come over to hang with us and stay with us?
The whole place, like even just driving in the driveway, you just feel instantly, it's like you could suddenly breathe, you just kind of decompress. But the biggest change is in the evenings, because around 6 o'clock, Andrew and Lemore turn all the lights down. So everything is much calmer. It's more peaceful. I find it easier to sleep because I'm not, like right now, this is unusual for me to be under, bright lights and to have lots of lights because, for us, this is the time we start winding down because we want to be asleep by 10 o'clock. Most people right now are still trying to, do homework and just finishing up dinner and doing dishes and laundry and lots of stuff going on. And it makes it harder to shift into sleep mode when you're in go mode. So close to when you're trying to sleep.
Yeah. Like your plane gets up. How are you going to land the plane later in the day? Most people, they have trouble getting going. Why? Because the night before you had trouble winding it in. You had trouble bringing the plane into the hangar. If you did a better job in the evening, you'd see a better improvement in the morning. And then there's a ripple effect on your bookends. This doesn't need to be nearly as hard as you make it. Start with one small step, compounded consistently, and let that penny double over 31 days. You'll have your $10.5 million and whew, I feel so much different. I feel so much energized. Even what Liz is saying, she's like, at 6 o'clock, we don't just shut up all the lights. It's not like a weird, like dark cave. I almost call it musical lights, right? Musical chairs, like as the music, well, as the night starts to go, it's like, oh, we don't need that. Or wait, that one needs to be on a dimmer. And I literally feel like I'm a painter with the spectrum of light that we have in front of us. So choose your environment. Be a little bit more mindful. If you got time off this month to spend with your loved one coming in from university, as one of you mentioned, if you got time to do that, as it sets into the evening, I have an action step for you. Create a cooler ambiance, right? Set the lights a little bit. Now, maybe you have some sage you could burn before everybody comes, or essential oils. Lizzie?
You mentioned something too about bookends. Do you guys want to hear a little bit more about the bookends? Because this was something that so I should back up for a second. So about 8 weeks after I started working with Andrew, my husband had been very skeptical in the beginning. He's an engineer, like everything's very linear, it's very structured. And about 8 weeks after I started working with Andrew, he's literally like, all right, I want in. So he started working with Andrew as well. So one of the things that Andrew spent a lot of time working with us on was our bookends. So do you guys want to hear a little bit more about bookends and how they can contribute to your, so Kalix says yes.
All right, Barb,
Barb,
John.
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so actually, I have an interesting thing to show you. So I've had this is one of two bookends. This has been in my family for about 40, 45 years. Absolutely heavy as F. And I use it to ensure that my craziness doesn't shake the computer as much. So it's up against my laptop backing. But the idea with the bookend, unfortunately, it's not an idea anymore. It's based on real science of what's going to allow you to perform higher and sustain that over the long term. Most people, what do they do when they wake up? Is it an alarm clock? Is it being scared into reality? Is it the snooze button? Bookends are essentially setting up the beginning of your day, the end of your day, so that you start to see what it's like to hit the winning way. Bookends in the morning help you get the energy up, get the plane onto the tarmac, gets the fuels checked. There's a lot of things you can be doing to set up a bookend. The real benefit of having a morning routine and a proper evening routine is that no matter what's in between your bookends, you got it. And it's absolutely seen tens of thousands of hours of coaching I've done with people when they set up a morning and it's just one little step consistently compounded after another. And we layer it, we customize it based on, hey, like when I wake up, I have 30 minutes and then the kids are up. Well, we need to figure out what does that bookend look like for you. And once we do that, as well as the evening, really whatever happens in between, whatever those chapters are, or your life in a bunch of books, it doesn't even matter. You're not only better prepared psychologically with a stronger intention of who you are, you have better energy levels, you're more effective, you're less likely to pick up on distractions that pull you over here and keep you from getting your real satisfaction. Bookends literally are your anchors. And I'll give you a hint, because it is definitely a rabbit hole and you want someone that knows them well to help you with them. One of the keys to bookends, don't start your day with text, with email, or with social media. You do that for the first hour. If you can do 30 minutes, great. It's probably better than what many do now. If you can do 45 minutes, even better. If you can do a full hour, watch what happens. Stay off your phone. Don't check updates. Don't see who messaged you. Leave your phone. Oh, but Andrew, I need an alarm clock. Well, probably most of you are learning that as you get your sleep normalized, again, big part of an evening bookend routine, how to prepare once you've landed the plane, how to get it into the hangar and cleaned up. But really what starts to happen is you start noticing you have a rhythm. You start getting up at the same time. And you no longer need an alarm clock to scare you awake, shooting and spiking cortisol up that you wash down with your assorted beverage, right? No judgment, of course. So here's the thing, the bookends, everything. Liz, does that kind of give a little synopsis for you there?
Yeah. Could you just tell people like a couple of things that you think would be important for them if they were interested in learning more about bookends? Like what types of things they should be considering, maybe?
Well, I mean, so here's the difficult part of bookends. You could go read Hal Elrod's book, Morning Miracle, if you really wanted like a good startup on morning routines. The challenge I've seen over the years, though, working with people to improve their performance, is the garden hose is much easier to consume and drink out of than the fire hose. And so it really comes down to understanding your preferences, your needs, the demands that are placed on you. And again, up at the top here, reboot.andrewscopick.com, you can actually go there, download the free document, and I'm happy to have a free strategy call with you, right? To figure out like, what's those couple of things that you can start doing. The first thing that I would categorically say is upon rising, go hydrate, not with coffee. If you're going to have coffee, I would highly suggest you wait several hours because your body is breaking fast. You just fasted for what could be 12 hours, right? And so most people, they shove down a lot of food or they shove down their coffee. And what they don't realize is that like the body needs this like gentle dance. It needs to be brought up, right? The energy needs to be generated. It doesn't just sit in your body and you wake up, it's ready to go. So one of the first things is hydrate. What I do, 16 ounces, lemon water. Just literally start your day. Vitamins, minerals, and it begins flushing waste products and helping your liver breathe. And guess what? When you have adrenaline, when you've had alcohol, you've had pharmaceuticals, anything in this world, we need to get that liver filtration moving. Most livers are very stagnant, okay? And that's one of the secrets. I mean, you're looking at Liz, and I've had people say, like, what's Liz up to? Guess what? She's been on a long process that's very consistent for her needs that allows her filter to better be utilized. So that's the first place I would start. But again, it's that stop and start. Stop looking at your phone, getting on the email, getting on the tech plugin, because that actually creates what we call the comparison loop, where you start to compare, oh, someone else has a need. Oh, somebody else has got a better this than me. So we want to get out of that so we can be more intentional to what we're feeling and what's going on in our body right now. And then slowly like bring the purr up, right? Rev the engine a little bit of the right fluids. And again, one of my big things, going for a walk, right? Getting the body moving. If you're sitting right now and we're coming up to the 55-minute mark, I'm sure most of you at this hour, you feel like it's time to go. So I would actually stand up and I'd bounce a little bit. If you don't have a rebounder or a vibration plate in the morning, literally, this is free. Lizzie, feels good, doesn't it, when we're vibrating and moving?
It does, absolutely. And I'd like to support what you say too, Andrew. If you guys are thinking about one big change, one thing to do that's going to really make a difference for you in 2023, putting down the phone is going to be one of the game changers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, taking time away from social media, making sure you have boundaries, not responding to emails after 6 o'clock at night, you know, having these clearly delineated times where you're off your phone makes a tremendous difference to creating that presence that you want to have to be able to respond more effectively to challenges.
Yeah, it opens up bandwidth. Oh, I feel like I have too much to deal with. I don't have time for myself. No, you just didn't have focus because you're consuming it over here, okay? So self-interactions and the success trail that you want to blaze requires you to be very intentional because different areas require certain levels of you at certain times in the year, in the month, during the week, during the day. So again, each of these works with each other, almost like Olympic rings, right? If you remove one, you break the strength, okay? So really, here's the thing. Action items, look at yourself. What's something I need to change, adapt, or improve about myself for 2023? What's one thing you'd like to work on, that you'd like to become more of? And again, this is just for yourself. This is just for you. No one else is around. No family, no friends, no kids, nothing. no expectations from coworkers or clients, just you. Second, how do I need to better show up for my family, friends, or my business circle? Starting now, this month. How could I? What would really allow me to maybe enjoy myself more, feel more full and fulfilled? Okay. And then lastly, what does the business side, your professional line of work, what does it require from me in 2023? And the real question is, and why am I committed to the above changes? So again, I would literally exact 1, 2, 3, self, interaction, success. What's the change you want to see in each? And usually if you're stuck, think about something in any area that might be a thorn in your side right now. Maybe something you want to resolve, you want to work on, right? So I would actually look at the red light coming from that and design a reality with the opposite. I'd like to resolve that conflict and be better at engaging with difficult individuals. And why are you committed to those changes? So I know we're coming up and we want to, tighten things up here. So here's the thing. If things are going to change in your life, you'll need to change the things in your life. I'm sure you've heard that before. Here's the thing. Working with a strategist, a coach that does this literally nonstop can cut down upwards of 95% of time if you even get there. Two of the biggest ways that change can occur and will occur, guaranteed, is by actually doing it or by actually seeing it and being around it. Call that immersion, or proximity is power. There's a reason Tony Robbins charges what he charges for his Lions Club, his elite group, because you get to be around that. That is exponential. Okay. So, in actual fact, here's the thing. If you're coachable, you want change, you have an idea of the growth you have in mind, right? Andrew Scopick. We also have a cool little club, right? For elite movers and shakers that get to learn how to focus, that get to figure out what's the best strategy for taking that massive action that allows me to really become more reflective, right? In a space that allows that. And then taking that back into your home, into your life. And of course, who doesn't need to recoup and rejuvenate? But, on that note, let's jump to some questions. It has been a delight dropping that for you.
Awesome. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew. I feel like we have a much better understanding of the things that we can do. And I know that you're not expecting people to wake up tomorrow morning and be completely different people. Like a lot of the work that we've done has been incremental. It's been, small changes over time with the compound effect and the atomic habits concepts. And it leads to tremendous growth and change over time.
Yeah, without consistency on some of the simplicity, there's nothing to talk about here. Like what most people do in the new year, and if you really want to know the secret why New Year's resolutions fail, they take on too much in a short period of time, putting pressure on themselves because they haven't maybe had the body or the things that they want. And guess why New Year's resolutions fail in the first 2 to 3 weeks? Because they don't have someone to guide them. They don't have someone to inch by the cinch. Inch is the cinch, right? The yard, you're not going anywhere out of that yard. And so we got to be a little kinder and gentler, a little more intuitive and into it. Like this isn't about just like rhyming off 10 things you can do. I'm going to tell you right now, if that had worked, it would have already worked. You would already have the things that you're setting a sight on. You already had that in your life. So yeah, it's a delicate dance, right? I almost think a lot of people come out like a dog, right? Needy and slobbering and stuff. We need to be a little bit more playful and genteel, like a cat, right? You fall off somebody's obstacle and you land on your feet. You got the cat rotation impact, right? So like, again, we just gotta, kind of lighten up, turn off some of those distractions and tune in and do the work consistently. That's it.
Absolutely. What do you guys think? Was that helpful for you? Did you guys get some direction, some ideas about ways that you can make 2023 your best year yet? I was thinking it might be kind of fun,
Yeah.
Andrew, if people told you maybe something they're not looking forward to, or something about the Christmas holidays that makes
Give
them
me
feel
something.
anxious or overwhelmed.
Give me something. Give me something. Yeah. And again, like perspective is everything. Having a aerial view of a situation can allow you to look at things a little bit more objectively. But again, this didn't come from my weekend endeavors when I first started as a coach. This actually came from real science, real data, figuring out what moves the needle. And I mean, Elizabeth Kelly, you're an absolute rock star. And,
Oh, thank you.
I mean, let's throw, like Liz said, if someone got something that they are tangling with, is there some sort of bone that they're chewing on or a bone to pick? Give a situation or a challenge. I'm happy to freestyle.
And maybe while people are doing that, I'll tell everyone, I'll share a challenge that I shared with you that you were instrumental in helping me figure out.
Yeah.
And I married into a big Irish Catholic family, and Kelly Christmas is something to behold. It's 80 people in a house
Yeah.
having a full sit down turkey dinner. It goes on until the wee hours of the morning. And for someone like me, who I have a very small family, it was overwhelming, and I didn't know how to, spending 8 hours in a situation that's overwhelming, I found very challenging. And Andrew, you were really instrumental in helping me sort of figure out, how to take small breaks, how to step into the bathroom and do some deep breathing, how to, step outside in the fresh air. All the different kind of strategies we put in place. We use some technology too. I have the Apollo Neuro. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it helps you switch and transition from sympathetic, or the jacked up version of ourselves, into
Landing in
the
a plane.
calmer version, the rest and digest sort of stage of our of how
So we
exist.
got a hot potato over here from Brianne. So Brianne, taking time off, busy in our business, kids need some quality family time. What are the ages of your kids, so I can better understand where you're coming from? What are the ages of your kids? And they are 7 twins. Super cool. Amazing. And in terms of your business, is this something that, as an entrepreneur, do you have like a fixed location? What is it? Are there certain hours? What kind of business, more or less? You don't have to describe it in full, but I'm curious, like what's the all in all? Okay, got it. So online, super business, amazing. Okay, here's the thing. What I'm really hearing here is that there is a weakness. I'm not calling you weak, but when we feel nervous, or we start to feel a little bit unsure, sometimes people get like a butterfly think about something when they're nervous, right? We categorically think of that as the sensation. Taking time off is an art. It is a practice. It's something that can start with small steps, but unless you really empower the flower, all you're going to do is throw down rain on it. Flower petals will fall off. Hopefully the points stick in here. Here's the key to taking time off. The key to taking time off is in measured doses initially. And there might be something else you can be doing so that your kids have some time. Now, if you have an online business, super cool. Kudos, congrats. 2 7-year-olds, and you have an online business. What could you do with them a little differently in between orders, customer calls? What could you be doing, right? What's one small step, something they enjoy and this is why we always appreciate and enjoy having a nanny, so that we can make that time, we can carve out that time. But you might find that even while you're, able to engage meaningfully in your business, you can set something up, maybe get creative. Because really, you know what kids are looking for? They're looking for focus. They're looking for fun. They're looking for engagement. And so quality family time, what if you were to set them up with, like, hey, this is going to be some crafts. Now, again, someone might need to, if your business is so good, is there's a way to get some part-time support to come in and encourage and have that. But then you're also going to need to take a break too, right? Because otherwise, if we don't take breaks, we usually break. So there's an opportunity here, I think, to get a little more creative. I'm happy to have a chat with you, reboot.andrewscopick.com. And, let's take a look. You got 2 7-year-olds. Amazing. There it is right there, Brianne. It's actually hard to disconnect. And because it's hard to disconnect, we haven't done it consistently. And if you haven't ridden the bike, the too-tired bike enough, you're not going to feel really confident, right, about jumping on the bike. You just haven't done it enough. So I think there's there's definitely an opportunity. This is a skill, taking time off, right? The opportunity is that you get to have more meaningful time with the kids and your family. So kudos to you for, your business being really busy, but this is a skill, and you could start and you'll continue. Your kids will benefit, because if you take time off, if you get a little bit of a break and learn how to disconnect better in yourself, that's the first bucket. That's the first bucket. It actually has nothing to do with the kids as your big first step. It's how do we learn how to fill up my bucket, how to disconnect, how to take time for myself in small increments. Doing what though? I can't disconnect. It's harder to. What do you think Liz and I have been doing for so many weeks and months, right? So that gives probably a little perspective. Hey, let's learn to make it easier to disconnect, right? So that we can better pour into the kiddos.
Awesome. I'm curious, Brianne, do you feel guilty disconnecting? Or do you feel guilty not spending time with the kids? Because that was one of the things that I found was the biggest challenge, was that I felt guilty all the time. And it really came down to giving myself permission to take that time for myself, realizing that I wasn't the best version of
we
myself.
talked about that in the mastermind. Was it last week? Where there's literally, I have a 70-year-old female client who looks radiant compared to where she was 2 years ago. It's like night and day. Now, performance and habits aside, we've got a bit of a thing for health and vibrancy and transformational strategies around youthing. Now, what we discovered is she's in a restaurant with people around her in the restaurant, and everyone's looking old and haggard. And she started feeling really bad. And she's like, am I taking too much time for myself to care? Meanwhile, her business is growing and growing, right? This is just a skill. Self-care is one of many skills. And, she did mention nervous, taking time for oneself. And I mean, you could argue that, when you're nervous, you're not sure, feeling insecure. I don't have the confidence in that area. So guilt is guilt, I would just say, is associated with, I'm feeling bad. I'm not feeling great about that thing. And we just have to create new neuro associations by repetitive behavior, setting up the right meaning and intention. Right. And so going back to Brianne here, a fuller, more vibrant bucket. What would that do for your kids, your 2 7-year-old twins? Not only your business, that's already doing really well. Super awesome. I saw one here from Ellie, though, Lizzie.
I saw that.
It's pretty good. Do you want to take a stab?
Well, I'll read it out because we captured it in the webinar, but do you have some strategies for dealing with feeling intimidated by reaching out and speaking with some people who feel a bit out of reach? Well, first of all, Ellie, I hope you're not talking about Andrew and I, because we would absolutely love to hear from you. We always, both of us have Calendly links. We would love for you to chat with us. However, assuming it's somebody else and not us that Ellie is talking about, what would you suggest, Andrew, for her?
Well, as soon as I read this, it screams social. Okay. So teaching high performance as a certified coach, bringing in the science, you're going to find there's interpersonal and then there's social factors. Okay. Interpersonal is Brianne saying, you know, I feel nervous or guilty, or I don't feel good about taking time, or it's hard to disconnect. That's a skill, her learning to take time and turn off the notifications, the order submissions, you know, the customer questions and all the blah, blah, blah in between, suppliers and malfunctions and this. What you're looking at here is moving out of self into interactions. And in fact, I mentioned necessity earlier as one of the 6 habits. Well, guess what? One of the other habits is influence. Now, but here's what's really interesting about showing up stronger in your interactions is you still can't skip that first bucket. So what we have to do, Ellie, is learn how to empower and feel stronger and more vibrant and more assured in who I am. Because guess what? The first level of influence is not going out on that to talk to that person who's a bit out of reach. And I have done tens of thousands of cold calls. I've been in so many different industries. I got a massive sales background. Guess what? It's just people, right? It's just learning how to engage meaningfully with people. Yourself first. And we could set up a call, Ellie. Liz or I mean, let's figure out who am I trying to reach out to, and what's the Ellie 2.0? What does she need to be in order to show up more meaningfully, whether it's on a phone or in person or on video? 100%. It's essentially a skill. Everything is. You get better at it, or you just don't because you don't do it. But honestly, you want to be able to get out of reach, right? Advance your reach. Get a stronger LeBron James type of reach. Get the kind of energy in the room that people just naturally, right? There's a way to go about it. There's a way to draw people in. There's a way to push people out. I think we want the latter of the two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome questions.
That was awesome.
Oh, Lorenzo.
My challenge is procrastination and staying consistent. I go through bursts of motivation, struggle putting those into an actionable routine. Oh, I think that's a really common one, Lorenzo.
Yeah. Yeah. So first off, who wants to take a guess at what the sibling is to procrastination? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Procrastination is usually the sibling to brother. Oh, babe, hey, where's that? There you go, buddy. Yes, perfectionism. And so that's why people start these New Year's resolutions, got a high, like, oh, I gotta button it down. I gotta do all these things. I gotta crush the diet, and I gotta work out 4 hours a day and drag my body and ass back into the gym. Perfectionism is literally the great seed of procrastination. Because I'm going to tell you, you want to get better, you got to get started. And that's the key to consistency, is biting off a chunk, a small, and just going consistently with it. Does that mean you can't change or adapt? In fact, it'll give you bandwidth to adapt. Progress is what this is really about. You got it, Michael. You know, the fact of the matter is, you're not consistent, you're taking on too much. You know, and maybe you're trying to catch up to someone that you hold in high regard, but I guarantee you they just started. What's one step you can do, Lorenzo, that you know you need to just start in practice? Try it for 21 days. And then add in the next thing. Watch your consistency go through the roof when you're not carrying such a heavy load, a heavy pressure, heavy, you know, this is why we were talking about those secrets, like recoup and rejuve and time for reflection will let you better inspect, and boom, there it is. Yes, that's it. You're feeling behind. So right there, you got a time pressure. So you're saying, like, I got to catch up. And guess what? What do you notice when someone's saying, I got to catch up? They're chasing down the bus. They're chasing down the bus, right? The fact is, Lorenzo, you're perfect, brother. And if you were to acknowledge who you are right now, and the fact that you even see something ahead of you, great. Break it down a little bit. And let's connect, because I know you messaged me privately, said you're going to give me a box of panettone as well.
Ooh.
I'll share with the group. We'll send it out. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, you want to know what makes success? It's these habit loops in a variety of areas, whether it's your influence, right? Ellie, so you can speak up better. It's a habit loop of, hey, Brianne, can we take a little better care and learn how to disconnect, unplug from the outlet, right? Otherwise the fuse goes, and we're giving a little too much, too long and too often. So again, it's about creating these little rituals and practices that over time compound. Amazing. Do you chug your lemon water or get it down to sip on it? I love this, Stephanie. Okay. So
do you want to read it out so that we capture it in the recording?
Your lemon water. Lorenzo, hit me on Andrew Scopick. I'd love to connect with you, man. You definitely, you got my attention there. That was awesome. Do you chug your lemon water to get it down or sip on it? Would lime work as well as lemon? Also, is hot water or cold water? Water better? So that's a pretty easy question with a lot of elements. Number one, if I'm feeling like, yeah, and I got the intention, I'm ready to thirst quench, baby. And I wake up first thing in the morning, I got my tall, big ass Yeti full, and I'm usually going. Now I won't chug the whole thing, but I will sip with purpose. How does that sound? I will purposely pout my lips and drink it on back. So sipping, I don't know. You're waking up and we literally get dehydrated overnight. I would probably pick up the sipping a little bit, get a straw, right? But do what's comfortable for you, Stephanie. I mean, remember, this is focus on self. It's a great habit to start in the morning practice, right? So choose what feels right for you. Maybe as you're sipping, close your eyes and say, hey, chugging feels, well, there you go. You got your answer. What's right for me as a man and what's right for Stephanie as a woman, I would hope that there's a difference there. So choose what feels good for you. Lime is great too. Absolutely. You might find that as per pricing in that, you'll find that a lime has a lot less to give than a juicy lemon. And it's often easier to get juice out of a lemon. Okay. Interestingly, I got into the analysis of cold water, room temp, and hot water. There's a reason the Chinese enjoy warm beverages constantly. And it not only improves circulation, and it also helps to move things through the body better. But my mother showed me, she used to cut articles out constantly. It's probably where I got the research thinking from. Long story short, cold water with ice cubes. They actually did a study that discovered, and again, please don't run away from ice cubes. Okay. This is me saying excessive use of ice cubes constantly. They actually discovered that the body tries to warm up the cells by creating fat, specifically on the liver. Now, I don't know how many ice cubes and how often, but they actually discovered people that drank hefty amounts of ice cubes constantly, and let's just call it what it is. They actually said in the article in the study, cirrhosis from alcoholism, that the livers start to get this like interesting fat layer on it. So I enjoy my cold beverages. If I'm having a nice cold, drink of some kind, awesome. But for the most part, I'm a room temp kind of guy, and I'm a warm tea. I know, Liz, you love your warm teas as well.
That's new, but yes.
Yeah. Well, again, like find your sweet spot. Maybe you're used to doing a lot of ice cubes. I mean, probably if you've done it your whole life and you're cool with it, you're probably fine with it. I mean, why is it some people live longer eating McDonald's and other people who are super extreme in what they eat and what they do? So again, I think there's a lot of psychological factors that influence, right? Generally room temp for me. Yeah. I mean, room temp's great. Warm is awesome. right? You'll probably notice like your temperature goes up when you have a warm beverage, right? So that helps, especially people with, cold extremities, very common, right? Cold weather. So great question. Lizzie?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to do now, if you don't mind, we'll pop over and sort of wrap up the webinar. And then if anybody has then we'll stop the recording. If anybody has any questions, we probably have time for maybe one more before 8:30. And then after that, people can just reach out to you because I know you're super responsive and you love just meeting people like I do.
Oh,
So
yeah. Love it.
perfect. Okay. So let's wrap up for this evening. So one of the cool things that we're going to do today is we're going to give away 2 books and we're going to do it for 2 people. So normally on one of my webinars, we'd have chosen a book and we would choose one person, but Andrew, you get to choose 2 people tonight. So give us 2 numbers between 1 and 50.
Okay. 1 and 50. I'll go with 22.
22. And who's your other number?
I'm going to go with 9.
22 and 9. Okay, fantastic. So Mary Beth will be reaching out to attendees number 22 and number 9, and we will be sending you the Action Takers Real Estate Investing Planner by Quentin D'Souza and Dahlia Barsoom's book, Investor Financing. So congratulations to both of you. I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2023. Now, if you are new to my real estate community, thank you so much for joining us for the webinar today. And feel free to subscribe to me on YouTube. So YouTube, Elizabeth Kelly Consulting. You will be able to find recordings of all of my past webinars over the last 3 years, plus some extra fun stuff that we have done. Everyone who registered for this evening's webinar will receive a copy of it via email before the end of the week. And then it will be posted on my YouTube channel within the next couple of weeks. Here is where you can find both of us. Of course, Andrew shared his link, but on Instagram, he is Andrew Scopick, and on the internet, he is andrewscopick.com. I am Elizabeth Kelly Consulting, and ekconsulting.ca is where you can find me. We would absolutely love to hear from you. And we are changing things up a little bit in 2023 with our webinars. So stay tuned to your emails. You will see an email come out in the next few weeks detailing what is going on in 2023 and how we are going to continue providing amazing information for you. If you guys have any ideas or anything that you would like me to cover, if you have a guest you would like me to bring on, if you have a topic that is causing you so much angst that you would love for me to address it, then by all means I would love to hear more about that. Oh, Lee Barb wants to meet Lee Moore.
I'll go get her. Hold one sec. No, I was just joking. Yeah, I'm sure she'd be happy to jump in. Let's do that.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Both Andrew and I, we wish you a very happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We hope you have a fantastic holiday with your family, and we would love to be part of your success in 2023. So don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can do or any way that we can help.
Yes, season's greetings to all. Be safe, be well, and try to bring the joy even to those that you feel may have lost that opportunity from you. Look at Joe, eh? You never disappoint. Hey, thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, go out there and enjoy it, and just spend some time, some quiet time, maybe by the fire, the Christmas tree. Maybe you got your cognac or your preferred beverage, and just think about, your highlights for the year, your top 3, and think about where you're going for 2023. Let's make it happen.
And thank you so much for your time this evening, Andrew. It is always a pleasure to learn from you. And I definitely got some great nuggets this evening as well. So I know I have the pleasure of seeing you again soon, but thank you so much for your time and for sharing everything with our real estate community. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me here, Lizzie.
Fantastic.